What is good, you guys? We are back in Dallas, man. You know what I'm saying? If you've been following the channel these last couple days, I've been in Jamaica having a really good time on my vacation, but I was still posting videos for y'all. And I'm back at the home base. Haven't took a shot in a minute, you know what I'm saying? Take a shot before every video. I was glad to get back in Dallas and get this post-game recap out for y'all. A long day of traveling, got back literally 30 minutes before the game, started watching the entire game, took out my hair, all this stuff. But I'm still about to talk about this game because Game 3 Clippers is maybe the best NBA team of all time, because it seems like every Game 3 the Clippers come through and win, with Kawhi or without Kawhi now. You know what I'm saying? Paul George, I want to start with Paul George because Paul George, I feel, avenged himself for those two missed free throws at the end of the game. Didn't have, I wouldn't say he had like a clean, pretty game, but he had a decent game and got his teammates involved a lot. Although having 6 turnovers, and that's kind of like fixed a little bit because he wasn't like careless with the ball. He just had the ball in his hands a lot. I think 30 something, 15 rebounds, almost 8 assists. Just an insane stat line. Having the ball in his hands a lot, and I'm super impressed with him with his up usage. And although I knew he could do this because he played on the Pacers for like the most of the start of his career, and he was the guy as a young dude. He was the guy on that team for a long time, so we knew he could do this, but we wanted to see it again. He's doing it once again, so shout out to Paul George doing his thing. I hope he starts shooting a little bit better. I think he went like 9 for 27 today. Didn't shoot great, but like I said, he just had a decent game, contributed a lot, and shout out to him. Reggie Jackson, another 20-point game for Reggie. Reggie is just a bucket, bro. He's a bucket. It seems like every single time he takes that catch to shoot 3, it almost seems like he waits for the defender to come and he just shoots right over him. Splash, rainbow. His shot is nice, bro. Getting to the basket, had that 7-0 run by himself. I think in the middle of that fourth quarter to really put the game over. Patrick Beverley, another great defensive performance by Patrick Beverley, and also Terrence Mann in this game. On Devin Booker and Chris Paul, both of them kind of getting both of those matchups and doing a decent job with them. So shout out to those two. Patrick Beverley with that big 3 to really put the momentum was on their side already, but like really in the game, that 3 was the dagger. And Patrick Beverley knocked that down. Another good game for Patrick Beverley. Like I said, Tyronn Lue pulling people in and out. And speaking of that, Ivica Zubac with the second start in this series, man, he was so big in that first quarter. So big. It seemed like he got to the line like 20 times in that first quarter, and it was actually 8. He had 8 free throw attempts in the first quarter, getting himself in the rhythm and getting the Clippers buckets, and that's what you need from your big man. And he almost had a double-double in the first quarter as well, getting a lot of offensive, defensive rebounds this game. I think he probably finished with 16 or 17 rebounds. Big game for Ivica Zubac. I was saying last game, and I know how to eat my words. I know when I'm wrong, but last game I was like, man, why is Zubac playing that much? It just seems like he was getting dominated by Ayton, and then they weren't getting the three-point shooting from Batum or somebody else in the lineup because they had Zubac there, and he wasn't producing as much. Today, he was great in the paint, you know what I'm saying? A great roller. Paul George was diming him up on a couple occasions, so shout out to that, and shout out to Ivica Zubac. So I talk about Man, Beverly, Zubac, Jackson, and George. Moore still looking a little bit hobbled, but playing okay. Kennard with a couple big 3s, and that's pretty much it. So shout out to the Clippers, man. Another big game 3 win. Once again in the third round of this playoffs, another big game 3 win. I want to talk about Kawhi Leonard though, man. Kawhi Leonard is the only superstar that I can see being hurt, still being on the team, and deciding to go sit up in a suite. It's just the funniest thing because it's Kawhi Leonard, and that's something that you could expect from Kawhi Leonard. I don't want to sit with my team. I'm going to just go ahead and sit up in this suite. Had his family there. Shout out to Kawhi Leonard, looking like he's in decent spirits. Hopefully he can get back, but I'm pretty sure he's out for the rest of the playoffs because I think they're kind of like trying to keep this injury on the low, but I think it's kind of a big injury, so keep on the lookout for that. But shout out to Kawhi for being in the building and supporting his teammates. Let's get to the Suns team though, man. I think this wasn't a bad loss for how bad D-Book and Chris Paul played this game, for real. And Chris Paul, they were saying it like the entire broadcast. Today, they just played slower. They didn't play at the pace they've been playing all series, and That's because of Chris Paul. Is it a bad thing? No, because usually when he's on in that Denver Nuggets series, it was nice and slow with Chris Paul's pace at times, getting to his spots, hitting every mid-range there is in the book. But now, when he's missing these shots and not being as impactful, not making as many points, it's a problem for him in the pace to be that slow. So it's putting out more. But I think we'll get back next game. Chris Paul will get back on, because in that Denver Nuggets series, he was a problem. Like, he was the actual problem. It feels like every time he got to that freaking elbow, he made it. And it feels like the basketball gods always want to mess with this man's momentum and how he's playing, and it sucks. And that COVID, I think, kind of messed with him. Not like the actual COVID himself, but just not being able to play basketball for 11 days. That messed with him. Now he's back, a little bit rusty, didn't have a great game. Devin Booker, like I said, man, and Beverly were great on Devin Booker today. But also, I think he was just a little bit frustrated with himself in the foul trouble and all that, and that probably kind of messed up his offensive game. But in the first quarter, when he went 0 for 6, and they showed the 6 shots at the beginning of the second quarter, I was like, 80% of the time he's making those shots. Like, one was like a catch and shoot off the inbound mid-range, and it went in and out. One was just a pull-up, and it just went in and out. It just seemed like his shot just wasn't going today, and I think that would change. But like I said, shout out to Beverly, man. DeAndre Ayton with a big first quarter, the only guy that was playing good in the first quarter for them, being big, ended up with 20 points. So 10 points in the first quarter, and I think 10 for the rest of the game. Just be more aggressive for the whole game. That's all I got to say for DeAndre Ayton. And Bridges, Johnson, and Crowder were trying to keep them in the game, giving them a little bit of spark with their threes and their cutting and their hustle out there, because those three are definitely not just defenders and shooters. They can get to the basket. They can kind of create their own shot. They're hustle guys. You know what I'm saying? They do a lot for the team. So Jay Crowder has to stay out of foul trouble and not get mad as much at the refs, because I feel like when you get mad at the refs, they call fouls easier. And I know people don't want to talk about that. And I know Paul George was flopping on a couple of those calls. And like putting his elbow on the people, and I know he does a lot of that stuff that Trae Young does. Doesn't get as much flack for it, but he does a lot of that. Paul George really does that foul baiting stuff a lot, but doesn't get as much flack for it. And I know he did that a couple of times against Jay Crowder, and that is upsetting. But try to keep your cool a little bit more, and I think you'll be okay. Cameron Payne out, I think, at the very end of the first half, and that was big because, man, Chris Paul's not playing. Cameron Payne's a big spark for this team. Big spark threes. That last game, 29-9, feels like every single time it's just low layup or floater every single time, or a catch and shoot three, and they just didn't have that today. And I think he's just a little bit more valuable than we thought, although it feels like Cameron Payne has almost been an addition for everything. He's been a plus all year. That's how people have looked at him. But I think he's just really a big part of this team at this point. The sixth man of this team, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to Cameron Payne. Hopefully he's better for next game, because they honestly need him. Didn't think I'd be saying that a Western Conference Finals team needed Cameron Payne in 2021, but here we are, man. Here we are. Hopefully, it gets better, because that's kind of the spark that they needed this game. Reggie Jackson coming out on a 7-0 run, just shooting and being that confident guy. That's kind of what Cameron Payne on a lower level for the Phoenix Suns, and they need that in this game 4, because Game 3 and Game 4 Clippers, they dangerous. I've seen it as a Mavs fan. Watched it against the Jazz. Don't let it happen to Phoenix. Although I am rooting for the Clippers, because I want Paul George to get to the finals. Don't like the ridicule that Paul George gets on his name, like Reggie Jackson, But it'd be kind of crazy if the Suns let the same thing happen to them that just happened to the two previous teams. That'd be kind of crazy. But it'd be cool if it happened. Paul George in the finals, crazy. Taking another one away from Chris Paul. The basketball gods strike again if that happens, man. That'd be very, very tough. But something else that I want to talk about outside of this game is something in Dallas, man. I'm done talking about the game. Great game, like I said, but we gotta talk about these Dallas Mavericks moves. Gotta talk about them. I've been traveling all day, but I've been keeping up with Twitter, and it seems like Jason Kidd is going to be the next coach for the Dallas Mavericks, as Rick Carlisle just got hired by the Indiana Pacers. And honestly, just as blunt as I can be, this is like an insane downgrade. Jason Kidd is a worse person than Rick Carlisle. He's a worse coach than Rick Carlisle. And Luka doesn't have that relationship with Jason Kidd that he would have with, I don't know, Mosley, the assistant coach, the black assistant coach that won a game this year against the Knicks, the coach that Luka Doncic said he could be a head coach one day, that guy, Mark Cuban. And then what makes me even more mad is that he's getting all these old players to come out and say Jason Kidd's the coach. What they're doing is right. I've heard a lot of people and seen a lot of people on Twitter saying Mark Cuban is wrong for using Dirk as kind of this person to put out in front of him and be like, well, Dirk said it's cool. Y'all love Dirk, right? And obviously we all love Dirk because he's Dirk. And who doesn't like Dirk, especially in Dallas? Have you seen what happens when Dirk Nowitzki comes out and people see Dirk Nowitzki in Dallas? They lose their mind. Dirk is Jesus here. So if you go out and say, oh, Dirk Nowitzki thinks Jason Kidd is a good move, everything like, oh, Dirk thinks, no. Mark Cuban is asking him to say that because everybody loves Dirk. Dirk is the Lord and Savior of the Dallas area. Like, and that just makes me so mad that he's kind of using him as a pawn, almost. Using Dirk Nowitzki as a pawn. That is insane. You just... Oh man, I don't know. It's just, it's really upsetting because I said in that Rick Carlisle video when we were talking about him getting fired, I said that not everybody is like Dirk. Luka Doncic is an insane, talented player at 22 years old. I'm not sure. I'm really in the moment right now. He's an insanely talented player, but not everybody is insanely talented like Dirk. And also a great person with the type of patience that Dirk Nowitzki has. And what these moves are doing is thinking that Luka Doncic is more patient than people think he is. And he's most likely not. Luka can leave. Dallas fans, y'all know that, right? He's not Dirk. He's not staying for 20 years. He's not going through Chandler Parsons signings. He's not going through all that, man. I promise you he's not, bro. He's not. So I hope Mark Cuban realizes that, somebody gets that to his head, because if they don't, it's gonna be a bad sighting, man. It's gonna be a bad sighting, and I do want to see that as a Dallas Mavs fan. And man, that's all. Let's talk about this president of basketball operations from Nike. I forgot his name. I really don't care, but I'm not as mad as that signing as I am with the Jason Kidd signing, because he's a fresh face and I have no idea. I know nothing about him. I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't know, so I can't really speak on him. He's a fresh face, may bring something different to the table. I'm not really sure. Sometimes you have to make those out-of-pocket moves instead of just getting a recycle face for a coach like Jason Kidd. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of different moves from the president of basketball operations and the head coach. So it's literally an unknown. I'm not even going to speak on that. I'm not even going to be negative about that. But Jason Kidd, negative. That's a negative. Get Mosley. Please hire Mosley. It looks like it's going to be Kidd, though. And that sucks that Mosley's just going to get overlooked for this job. And Kidd's just going to go ahead and get it. That's terrible, man. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you like this type of content, go ahead and like the sub on the video if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys next time.